Back home now, and the focus today has been on energy here in Canberra. The energy regulator making a significant concession.
But you're saying you cannot guarantee that the current government policy settings which you model will deliver lower power prices?
I can't guarantee that, no. And what I would say is we try to be quite clear about the communication of our message, which is that the integrated system plan, which considers these things, generation storage and major transmission upgrades, is the lowest cost pathway. It doesn't refer to whether it's cheaper or more expensive for that wholesale component, and it explicitly doesn't consider other parts of the consumer energy bill.
Let's bring in the National Senator Matt Canavan, who was asking those questions. He's still saying, though, no guarantee there'll be lower prices, but he's saying it's the lowest cost pathway. Do you accept that suggestion from him?
Well, I've always got scepticism about models, but let's just unpack what that means, Kieran. What he's saying is that if you set in stone in concrete 82% renewable energy target by 2030, net zero by 2050. Victoria's 95% renewable energy, ridiculous, 95% renewable energy target. If you take all those as a given, then what they're saying about going to renewables is the lowest cost pathway. But you are cooking the books. I mean, in the inputs to this model, they're saying that we have to get to 82% renewables. So, of course, you're going to have to get to, guess what, 82% renewables. This is not, as they also confirmed, this is not a cost-benefit study of what is the cheapest way to deliver electricity to Australians. And that's why you're getting this conclusion that, in fact, actually, despite what we've been promised by the Labor Party, we're not going to get lower power prices for Australians because we haven't done a proper assessment of how could we deliver the cheapest form of power to Australians, to Australian businesses, and to protect our jobs.
Is it not just maybe a cautious person who's a senior public servant not wanting to give guarantees?
No, it's a fundamental problem with the way the assessment is being done. There is a problem with how it's being interpreted. And later on in those hearings, I did read out things from the AEMO chair where he seemed to suggest to everybody that renewable energy was the cheapest form of power without the caveat that there's the least cost pathway. And so he and others, I believe, have allowed the impression to be established that somehow renewable energy is cheaper than other alternatives, when, as I say, quite clearly, in the way the integrated system plan, the way the government does all these figures, that is a foregone conclusion. It is not an output. It is not an examination, an arm's length examination of what is the lowest cost way we could deliver power to people. And I think that's what people want to know. I mean, it's clear now. We know now that we're not going to get the $275 power price reduction the government promised us. And I think Australians will have to ask Santa for a power price reduction, because they're certainly not going to get one from this government.
Was there any explanation as to why Australia has comparatively high power prices compared to, say, the United States, for example?
Well, I asked that direct question, and the short answer is no. There was no discussion of that at all. I asked the AEMO, he's our energy regulator, the energy regulator chair, the boss of the whole energy market. Why is it, despite all the promises we've had, that we now have power prices 3 times higher than the US? I mean, 3 times higher. We both are blessed with abundant energy reserves of coal, of gas, of uranium. Actually, we've got much more uranium than they do. We don't use it, of course. So we've got all these energy resources. We both have very dispersed populations. Yes, they have a bigger population, but they're a very dispersed population. Now it wasn't always this case, but now our power prices are 3 times higher than theirs. And that's why we're losing. We're losing fertiliser production to the US. We're losing our plastics industry. All energy-intensive industries are leaving our shores because you just cannot compete, obviously, against the very low prices that you get in China and India, who are building coal-fired power stations, but also, I think less commonly accepted or understood, the very, very low prices you get in the United States, because last year the United States produced more oil than any country in any year ever. Now, they notionally, and they pay lip service to net zero emissions by 2050, but they actually had a record year for oil production. They beat Saudi Arabia, beat Russia, beat every country. And that's why they're getting cheap energy. It's not rocket science. If we want cheap energy again in this country, we need to use our energy resources. And we're not just ship them overseas. So use our coal, use our gas, use our uranium, and yes, use our sun and wind too, but use everything and have energy abundance, and then you'll get power prices to fall.
Matt Canavan, appreciate it. Thanks for that. Busy day for you. Thanks for making the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.